Welcome to the Mediterranean milieu of the Lebanese writer Amin Maalouf, made of taste and commerce. For common people, blue economy deals with the sea and land, in the former case with fishing and trade routes, while in the latter with tourism and port logistics. Concerning the Mediterranean Sea, we must also get into blue culture, because trade has given a positive cultural imprint shared between coastal societies. In Baldassarre's Odyssey, which has been published at the beginning of the third millennium, the main character clearly expresses this exact opinion. Maalouf describes his own vision of the Mediterranean world, relying on the traditional practice of commerce. In alphabetical order, the three keywords of my talk are economy, imaginary, and the Mediterranean. The economy itself is something not tangible. You perceive its concept as the result of different actions. Economy is made of interrelated production, consumption, and exchange activities. Many actors and many beneficiaries are involved. The production, consumption, and distribution of goods and services are indeed used to fulfill the needs of those living and operating within the economy. Similarly, the actions enacted in a given space by communities, such as their way of life and their tastes and needs, embody specific cultures and imaginaries. However, to define the imaginary, we will need to proceed by synthesis and abstractions, but with a third key word, the Mediterranean, we define its physical boundaries in a geographical sense. The protagonist of this novel is a Genoese Levantine merchant, actually a bookseller. Baldassar Embriaco introduces himself as the descendant of a historic Genoese family. Maalouf uses this character to substantiate his own opinions on his Mediterranean imaginary. The story takes place around 1666, one of the many years foretold by history in which apocalypse should have took place. Balthasar Embriaco embarks in search of the rarest of the books, the 100th name, which is the still unknown name of God. He sets out on a journey that will take him across the breadth of the civilized world, making his way to Constantinople and on to Smyrna and Aleppo before boarding for the Isle of Chios and sailing through the Mediterranean via Genoa and Lisbon, arriving in London and finally setting up home in Genoa. After experiencing his life in various Mediterranean societies, often under tyrannical governments, Baldassar Embriaco proclaims his profession to be more respectable than those more traditionally considered as sources of pride, namely military and religious careers. In fact, Maalouf makes Baldassar say, I cite from the original version of Baldassar's Odyssey, Je l'ai toujours pensé, mais aujourd'hui je le pense encore plus. Le négoce est la seule activité respectable, et les marchands sont les seuls êtres civilisés. Ce ne sont point les marchands que Jésus aurait dû chasser du temple, mais les soldats et les prêtres. Nowadays, we talk about organizations and infrastructures. Instead, Maalouf's character focuses on the ethical structure underlying his business. In this novel, Balthasar strongly believes that merchants have some fundamental qualities for worthily inhabiting the world. Honesty, as one might easily imagine, but also righteousness, wisdom, and dignity. According to Balthasar, the desire for prosperity motivates the work. The legitimacy of this desire is never questioned, except when it suffocates other fundamental qualities, such as common sense, modesty, generosity. However, not all the merchants in Maalouf's novel are pious, wise, righteous, and honest. For sure, some emeritus cheaters make their apparition, but the main character and his fellows are quite reliable both as merchants and as human beings. Merchants' scale of values allows Balthasar to draw a pattern for assessing the events looming over the confused European and Middle Eastern world in the second half of the 17th century. The occasion is provided by having incurred a debt with his Genoese host Gregorio Mangiavacca. This debt would have been expired after the expected apocalypse. The end of the world would have erased everything. At that point, he would have disappeared himself without being able to pay off his debt. The possibility that he may not be able to meet his commitments, albeit for higher reasons, raises many questions. I cite from the original version of Baldassarre's Odyssey. Que deviendront alors nos dettes? Oui, que deviendront les dettes quand le monde se sera éteint avec ses hommes et ses richesses? Seront-elles simplement oubliées ou bien seront-elles prises en compte pour fixer le sort ultime de chacun? Ceux qui paient leur dû à échéance gagneront-ils plus facilement le paradis? Les mauvais payeurs qui observent le carême seront-ils jugés avec plus d'indulgence que les mauvais payeurs qui ne le font pas? Voilà bien des préoccupations du marchand, me dira-t-on. Sans doute, mais j'ai bien le droit de me poser ces questions puisque c'est de mon sort qu'il s'agit. Cela me vaudra-t-il quelque clémence aux yeux du ciel d'avoir été ma vie entière un commerçant honnête? The attention to money-related matters and the feeling that pecuniary debts are debts of honor that must always be paid whatever it takes are not the trivial matters that concern only the person of Baldassar, an honest merchant, but they are a moral imperative that involves each individual within his social context. These economic themes recur throughout many of Maalouf's novels. For example, in Leo Africanus, set between 1492 and 1526, there is a large number of references to various activities. This great amount of information acquires itself a symbolic value that characterizes the societies and individuals in the concerned countries. The main character of this novel thinks that commerce, great trade and small business is included in a set of different economic activities such as craftsmanship, services and agriculture, which becomes a sort of enterprise. In both novels, the characters observe that the smooth running of these businesses depends on the good organization of every aspect. From these works, we can draw at least two main interpretative hypotheses. On the one hand, Maalouf communicates nostalgia for historical eras that allowed individuals and groups to perform economic actions which were capable of providing their actors with prosperity and dignity. On the other hand, these novels are perhaps intended to encourage a return to the traditional spirit of craftsmanship and commerce, which seems so congenial to Mediterranean populations. I'll close with two more key words taken from Maalouf's novels: simplicity and competence. An excellent organization based on the fundamental principles of honesty and dignity results in an easier and more productive activity. To achieve this, the Mediterranean people must rediscover their own competencies. We don't ask novels to provide us for technical solutions to today's questions, but we should take what they can really offer us, such as suggestions for building common traditions, opportunities to see new ways of coexistence and to imagine socially sustainable growth, and above all, some fundamental pre-economic feelings, such as self-esteem and confidence in the future, or at least hope. Thank you very much.